In the beginning, there was light, and today we are in the dark.
Eskom needs to have someone like a Gayton McKenzie.
Right now, Eskom says South Africa must brace for 2 years of continuous load shedding at between stages 2 and 3, with higher stages not being ruled out.
Load shedding keeps getting worse. It feels like there's no winning and there's no answer as far as I've seen. Like, where is it coming from? Why do we have electricity one time and then we don't another? We've permanently got load shedding, and it's like we're doing all this load shedding, but where's the solution?
I feel like whatever's happening over there, whatever they're planning or doing, they're just doing it completely wrong.
Yes, I do. It's totally wrong. Now it's raising the prices while the load shedding is always every day. So now we're suffering, we're poor, we don't have money. At least must make a plan and reduce this thing.
This is the dark truth of Eskom. Eskom is the largest power company in Africa and responsible for generating, transmitting and distributing electricity to the majority of South African population. However, in recent years, the company has been plagued with financial and operational challenges, resulting in frequent power outages and financial instability. The South African government has announced plans to restructure and privatize the company in an effort to improve its performance. There are 5 things which has caused the company to be under financial ruin and bad leadership. Let us dive into what actually caused this and how it can come back to power. Corruption and mismanagement. One of the main issues facing Eskom is corruption and mismanagement by its leaders. There has been allegations of kickbacks and the award of contracts to companies with close ties with those in power. In addition, there has been allegations of poor management and a lack of oversight, which have been contributed to the company's financial difficulties and operational challenges. This has led to a lack of trust in Eskom's leadership and a loss of confidence in the company. Corruption and mismanagement have been major issues facing Eskom. These issues have been attributed to the actions of the company's leaders and executive who have been accused of engaging in corrupt practices and mismanaging the company's operations. One of the major examples of corruption at Eskom is the awarding of contracts to companies with close ties with those in power. It has been reported that Eskom executives have awarded contracts to companies in which they have financial interest or to companies owned by friends or family members. This has led to accusations of kickbacks and self-enrichment by Eskom's leaders. Examples of individuals who have been implicated in corruption and mismanagement at Eskom include former CEO Brian Molefe, who resigned in 2016 following allegations of impropriety in the awarding of contracts, and former CFO Anoj Singh, who resigned in 2018 following allegations of financial mismanagement. Former CEO Jacob Maroga was also fired due to mismanagement, and a number of other Eskom executives have been implicated in corruption and mismanagement. It's important to note that these individuals have been accused of these actions and it's not yet confirmed. It's still under investigation. These issues have resulted in significant financial losses for the company and have hindered its ability to provide reliable electricity to the South African population. It's important that the government and relevant authorities investigate these allegations and take appropriate action to hold individuals accountable for any wrongdoings and to restore trust in Eskom's leadership. Political interference. Another issue facing Eskom is political interference in the company's operations. Eskom has also been criticized for being used as a political tool, with appointments and decisions being made based on political considerations rather than on the best interest of the company. This has led to a lack of accountability and transparency and also have hindered the company's ability to make sound business decisions. Political interference has also been a significant issue facing Eskom. This interference has been criticized for hindering the company's ability to make sound business decisions and for undermining the independence of the company. One of the main forms of political interference at Eskom has been the appointment of executives and board members based on political considerations rather than on their qualification or expertise. This has led to a lack of accountability and a transparency within the company, as well as lack of continuity in leadership and decision making. Another form of political interference has also been the use of Eskom as a tool for political gain. For example, there has been allegations that the company has also been used to provide financial support to politically connected individuals or organizations or to fund political campaigns. The government has been accused of appointing individuals in key positions in Eskom that are loyal to the ruling party rather than having the necessary skills, qualification and experience for the job. This has led to a lack of accountability and has hindered the company's ability to make sound business decisions. Political interference in Eskom's operations has also led to a lack of transparency and accountability, as well as lack of trust in the company's leadership. It has also contributed to the company's financial difficulties and operational challenges, and also to a lack of confidence in the company. It's important that the government and relevant authorities take steps to prevent political interference in operations of the Eskom and to ensure that the company's leadership and executives are held accountable for their actions. This can include strengthening regulations to prevent political interference, increasing transparency and oversight, and ensuring the appointments to key positions that are based on qualifications and expertise rather than political consideration. Lack of transparency. Eskom's leadership has also been criticized for lack of transparency and for failing to provide clear information to the public and shareholders. This has led to a lack of accountability and a lack of trust in the company's leadership. Eskom has also been criticized for lacking transparency in its operations. There are several reasons why this may be the case. One reason for lack of transparency at Eskom is the influence of political considerations on the company's operations. As I previously mentioned, political interference in the company's decision-making process, such as the appointment of executives and board members based on political considerations rather than on qualifications, can lead to a lack of accountability and transparency. Another reason for lack of transparency at Eskom is the company's financial difficulties.
However, he has stressed that Eskom needed money to generate electricity. Ramaphosa says Eskom's financial position is worsened by the more than 60 billion rand municipal debt.
Eskom has been struggling financially for several years with mounting debt and operational challenges. This has led to a lack of transparency in the company's financial reporting, as well as the concerns about the mismanagement of the company's financial resources. Additionally, there has been allegations of corruption and misconduct within Eskom, with accusations of kickbacks, self-enrichment by executive and leaders. This can also lead to a lack of transparency and accountability in the company's operations. Lack of transparency also results from lack of proper governance and lack of proper checks and balances. This can also result in a lack of oversight, which can lead to poor decision-making and mismanagement. Finally, the lack of transparency can also be due to the lack of proper communication and engagement with the stakeholders. If the company is not effectively communicating with its stakeholders, such as customers, shareholders, and the public, it can lead to a lack of trust in the company and a lack of transparency in its operations. It's important that the company takes steps to address these issues and increase transparency in its operations. This can include implementing stronger governance and oversight mechanisms, improving financial reporting and transparency, and engaging with stakeholders to build trust and transparency. Inefficient operations. In addition to the above issues, Eskom has also been criticized for its inefficient operations, which have led to high levels of waste and inefficiency.
The past few weeks has seen some of the worst power cuts on record in South Africa, with the power utility Eskom rolling out nationwide blackouts, locally referred to as load shedding, for up to as much as 10 hours a day. Even hospitals have not been spared.
It does affect a lot of our equipment that we do have on site. For example, like I have mentioned, we have our elevators that are obviously put onto the generators, which keep going on and off, which have also put patients in very dangerous situations by being inside there and not being able to get out.
This has further contributed to the company's financial difficulties and has hindered its ability to provide reliable electricity to the South African population. Inefficient operations have been a major issue facing Eskom. This inefficiency has also been blamed for the company's financial difficulties and for its ability to meet the country's growing energy needs. One of the main causes of inefficient operations at Eskom has been the company's aging infrastructure. Eskom operates at a fleet of coal-fired power plants, and many of which are decades old and in need of maintenance and upgrades. This has also led to a lack of frequent breakdowns and outages, as well as increased maintenance costs. Another cause of inefficient operations at Eskom has been the company's lack of investment in the new power generation capacity. Despite the growing demand for electricity in South Africa, Eskom has not invested enough in new power generation projects, which also has contributed to the lack of capacity and to the company's financial difficulties. Another cause of inefficiency within Eskom is due to the company's lack of proper maintenance and investment. Eskom's power plants have also been poorly maintained, which has led to frequent breakdowns and reduced capacity. This is largely due to lack of investment in the plants and in the maintenance of the plants. Another cause of inefficiency is due to the company's reliance on coal-fired power plants. Despite the growing need for cleaner and renewable energy sources, Eskom has continued to rely heavily on coal-fired power plants, which are not only inefficient but also contribute to the country's environmental problems. Finally, inefficient operations are also caused by poor management, a lack of accountability and poor decision-making. This can also lead to wasted resources, poor planning and a lack of productivity. To address these issues, Eskom needs to invest in upgrading and maintaining its existing power generation assets and exploring alternative energy sources like solar, wind and hydro energy. Additionally, Eskom needs to improve its management and decision-making processes and hold its leaders and executives accountable for their actions. Eskom on being privatized. Eskom, South Africa's state-owned electricity utility company, has faced discussions and debates over the potential for the privatization in recent years. Proponents of privatization argue that it could bring in private investment, improve efficiency, and reduce government debt. Opponents, on the other hand, worry that privatization could result in job losses, higher electricity prices for consumers, and decreased access to electricity for low-income households. At present, the South African government has also not announced any plans to fully privatize Eskom, and the company remains under the state control. The government has, however, been exploring options to bring in private investment and improve the performance of Eskom. Here are a few ways that Eskom could improve its services. Invest in modernizing and upgrading its infrastructure. Implement efficient and effective energy management systems. Increase transparency and accountability. Diversify energy sources to reduce reliance on any one source. Improve maintenance and service delivery to ensure reliability and stability. And fostering a culture of innovation and continuous improvement within the organization. Load shedding is a result of the country's strained electricity supply and demand balance, which also has been exacerbated by aging infrastructure, low investment in maintenance, and a lack of new generation capacity. Eskom is facing a number of significant challenges and issues, including corruption, mismanagement, political interference, lack of transparency, and inefficient operations. These issues have led to a lack of trust in the company's leadership and a loss of confidence in the company. The South African government is also currently working on a plan to address these issues and to bring the company back to financial stability, but it is clear that significant changes will be needed to restore the trust in Eskom's leadership and to ensure the long-term stability of the company.